Hello, Vishnu Priya. Just wait for a minute. I will tell you.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Dear students, just wait. We will start within few minutes. our resource person is having some technical issues. So it will sort out within a few minutes. So please wait. Okay, thank you. നിങ്ങളെ കുറച്ച് കുട്ടികളെ ഒന്ന് എക്സിറ്റ് ചെയ്യാമോ, ക്വിറ്റ് ചെയ്യാമോ? ഒരു 4-5 പേര് മാത്രം കേട്ടോ. സാറിന് കയറാൻ പറ്റുന്നില്ല. അപ്പം നിങ്ങളൊന്ന് എക്സിറ്റ് ചെയ്യാം. ഒരു 4-5 പേര് എക്സിറ്റ് ചെയ്യാം. മതി 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 മതി. ഇറ്റ്സ് ഓക്കെ നാ. അപ്പം നിങ്ങൾക്ക് യൂട്യൂബ് ലൈവ് അവൈലബിൾ ആണ്. യൂട്യൂബ് ലൈവ് അവൈലബിൾ ആണ്. അതിൽ കയറുക. മതി. ബാക്കിയുള്ളവരോട് റിമൈൻഡ് ചെയ്തോളൂ. ദർ ഇസ് ഇനഫ്. അവനത് ഓണാക്കിയിട്ടേക്കാണ്. ഹലോ സിബി സാർ.
ഹലോ സർ, കേൾക്കാവോ? ഓഡിബിൾ ആണോ?
കേൾക്കാം.
ഓക്കെ സർ.
സ്റ്റാർട്ട് ചെയ്യാം.
I will start with sir.
Okay sir.
Sir, shall I start?
Yes, you can.
Good morning to one and all. As we all know, on 1st February 2022, Union Finance and Corporate Affairs Minister Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman presented our Union Budget for the financial year 2022-23. Focusing mainly on technology and infrastructure sectors, also offered provision for health and education for the development of common man. Budget also gave a broad idea of India's GDP and stability during the time of COVID-19. It new allotment for almost every sector to cultivate growth in the subcontinent. Besides all this, the budget also includes several other highlights. Today, we all gather in this virtual platform to grade up our knowledge on Union Budget 2020-23. So I welcome all of you to today's session of a review on Union Budget 2020-23. It's such a wonderful day as we are privileged to have an excellent resource person, Professor C.B. Joseph K. Sir, Associate Professor, Berkman Institute of Management Studies, to conduct today's session for all of us. So, let's start our meeting by seeking the blessings of the God Almighty through a silent prayer. Okay. Now we are moving on to the official session. Before that, let me invite Dr. Joshi Andrew Sir, Head of Research and Postgraduate Department of Commerce, for the welcome speech.
Okay, Vishnupriya, am I audible?
Yes, sir, audible.
Yes.
Okay. Respected guest of the day, Dr. C.B. Joseph Sir, dear colleagues and my dear students. As Vishnupriya said, every year on 1st February, the finance minister of the ruling government is coming up with the union budget in the parliament. As you know, basically it is a projected receivables and payments or payables of the government for the coming financial. Today, here we are going to discuss why it is so important for us, or how far it is worthy for each citizen, businesses, institutions, and other organizational setups existing in our country. As it is a total receipts and expenditure of the economy as a whole, it has an impact on, a big impact on our income and expenditure as well. Because we, the individuals, businesses, etc., are all part of this system. So I would say a good budget has to bring about a balanced economic growth of our country. We can say coupled with the social justice and equity. It should ensure efficient allocation of the resources available in the country. It should reduce the wealth and income disparities. It should keep a check on the price levels. It should reduce unemployment and poverty level. And there should be proper allocation even for the long-term infrastructure development of the country. I mean, the proper capital expenditure have to be made, or the provisions on various capital expenditure also have to be included in this. Here we are going to analyze how far these aspects have been accommodated in the present budget. For this, today we are having an eminent personality with us, Dr. C.B. Joseph Sir, Associate Professor of Berkman's Institute of Management. He is basically a finance faculty, and I would say he is having a rich experience in this field because, or I could say he is the apt personality to explain the things in detail. I wholeheartedly welcome you, sir, to this gathering.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So thank you, Joshi and Truzza, for the introduction. Okay, so straight away, what I understand is that we have students of commerce, isn't it, sir?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. So slightly, I've oriented my budget analysis in the context of commerce students. Apart from the conventional budget analysis, I've included the impact of the budget to the capital market and to the sectors also. Okay, so I thought that will be much more meaningful for students of commerce. Before getting into the budget analysis, let me give you an overview of the budget. Actually, the national budget 22-23 was presented in the parliament by Nirmala Sitharam. It was her fourth consecutive budget, and you would have come across a term called Amrit Kal. By the finance minister have coined that during the day of independence, the 75th day. Amrit Kal, 25 years long leap to India. So India is celebrating the 75th year of independence. With another 25 years, we'll be reaching India 100. Okay, so he has coined that is something an auspicious occasion to start a new thing that is called as Amrit Kal. So that is the entire focus of the budget, taking India to next 25 years, and India at 100 is a larger vision for the entire country. And as I've told you, the union budget is an annual financial statement, as rightly pointed out by Joshi sir, is a financial statement. So Article 112 of the Constitution of India, it mandatorily requires the budget, union budget, to be presented every year. The Article 226(1) says that the consolidated fund of the country has to be pulled together. So once the country's fund has been pulled together as a consolidated fund, obviously what has to have, we have to get the approval of the people at large. So the Lok Sabha has to pass the union budget. So it is mandatory that every year we have to have the budget presentation and the passing of the budget, then only it can be utilized for the next financial year. And very quickly into the economic activities, we know that it is the production, consumption, and the distributions are the three major economic activity. And the major policies are the fiscal policies and the monetary policy. So as students of commerce, we know all this. And budget is nothing but a physical tool. So you have to be very clear about that. Budget is a physical tool, and you have budget with an expansionary and a contractionary nature, where all the budget from the very start of the Indian independence to this latest budget was deficit budget. Now, country like India to have a deficit budget is nothing wrong in that, because being a developing country, we plan to be a developed country by 2050. But being a developing country, the deficit budgeting have no issues, because we have to create more of allocation of resources, employment generation has to be there. Okay. So with this prelude, let me start with the presentation of the budget very quickly. So let me share the slide. Is the slide visible? Hello?
Yes, sir. Now it
Yes,
is.
sir. It's visible.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. So once again, let me extend my gratitude to the Department of Commerce and Aloysius College for inviting me. I've just put the opening slide as Budget 22, Ahmed Kal from India, 75 to India at 100. So this is the focus from India 75 to India 100. And based on the Ahmed Kal, we had a 4 clear vision at India at 100. So basically one is that inclusive welfare principle. So that is one major focus, is inclusive welfare principle. Second one is the digital economy and the fintech technology. So the energy transition, the climate action, everything comes under that. And there is a much focus on this year's budget on the digital economy and the fintech technology. And then the private-public participation is another major focus with the crowd-private investments. Now, before getting into the budget analysis, is quite, you know that on the previous day, the government presents the economic survey. Economic survey is nothing but, it talks about the affairs of the economy. The economic affairs of the country is being given. And it is a policy initiative of the government. So very quickly, let us take the highlights of the economic survey. Now, Indian economy is estimated to grow by 9.2% in real terms on 21-22. And subsequent to the contraction, for the last year, it was 7.3%. But this year, we expect to have a growth, 9.2%. And the GDP projected growth was 8 to 8.5% in 22-23. So we are very realistic in that. And you see, when we compare with many global players, our GDP projections is really very promising one. And then when you look into the sector's growth, agriculture has contributed 3.9%, industry by 11.8%, and service by 8.2%. So industry and service have come down, but then agriculture for the last 2 years, the contribution of agriculture has increased. And Forex Reserve, I need not tell you the background, the theoretical concept of Forex Reserve. Okay, so India is the fourth country, the largest country in Forex Reserve. The China is number 1, Japan is number 2, and Switzerland is number 3. So India is the fourth country with a high Forex Reserve of 633.6. Hope you remember that in 1991, our Forex Reserve was just 1 billion. It was just enough for just a month's foreign exchange requirements. But then now we to be a strong country in Forex Reserve with 633.6 billion, the fourth among the global players. And the merchandise exports and import bounced back. The COVID have taken a toll for that, but then it has bounced back. Now, very quickly into the sectors, agriculture sector the contribution was 18.8%. And then you see you have the gross value added, GVA. That concept is very important for students for commerce and all. You know that more than the GDP, the GVA gives a, and GVA is nothing but the GDP plus the subsidies minus the taxes. That is nothing but the value of the economic output less the value of intermediate consumptions. Okay. So the GVA concept has to be understood very clearly, and that has been taken as a comparative figures among the country. And the industrial production grew 17.5% year of year during April 2021. And the average CPI, the consumer price index, inflation is 5.2%. It is slightly more than what has been expected with, but inflation, you know that slightly. There is economics saying that we are experiencing stagnation plus inflation also. But then I don't subscribe that, but the inflation is slight for everything. But then the Sensex and Nifty has reached the highest point. Last October, 61,766 was Sensex and 18,477 was Nifty. So that was the highest. So in spite of all the COVID issues and the pandemic issues, we have the Sensex and Nifty coming up the highest. Now, very quickly into the overview of the budget, introduction of the budget. Now, you see when you look into the budget size matters a lot. Okay, so this figure, leave the presentation with Joshi sir, I don't mind it. So the budget size is 39.45 lakh crores. Okay, so that is almost the same with other countries. So the size of the budget is 39. You should have a fair understanding. And where the revenue, of which the revenue is 25.5, but the size of the budget is 39.45 lakh crores. Now, this budget had a focus of 4 major areas, that is the PM Gati Shakti. So that is the word coined. The PM Gati Shakti, the inclusive development, the productivity enhancement and investments, and financing of investments. So these are the 4 major thrust points the government has taken from India from 75 years of independence to the 100 years when it moved. India, these are the 4 major priorities. So let's analyze one by one. The first one is PM Gati Shakti. Now you see the major drive engines of India, the 7 major engines of infrastructure is road, railways, airport, ports, mass transport, waterways, and logistics. Now, country has realized that we have to have a clear logistics. The infrastructure of the country has to have a big leap. The movement of the goods and services should be very fast. Okay, so that is very important. So the major 7 engines has been identified, and this has given a big prominence in the budget to take off for the next 25 years. This is one thing which was not really focused in India. The movement of goods is a very important aspect of it, where we are talking about ULIP. It is not the financial term, is United Logistics Interface Program has been launched. And another major important factor with the Gati Shakti is that the national highways, 25,000 kilometers of highways are being proposed. And there is an integration of the postal. I've told you that the logistics and the movements of that is very important, where the integration of the postal and the railways are taken for the parcel movement. Now, movement of parcel industry or individuals is very, very important for a country to go forward. So the integrated postal and the railway is major important thing. And then the terminal has been put in. The Vande Mataram trains. Okay, now that is a debate we have it, whether Kerala should have the K-Rail or is the Vande Bharat train mountain when you go to further know that. So that is one thing which has been conducted in north and all. The hills areas are there where you find it very difficult to reach. So building roads over there is very cumbersome. Acquisitions of land and then the infrastructure building was very cumbersome. Where we are planning for instead of the conventional road, we are looking for a national ropeways. So the hilly areas are connected by ropeways where the movement has been linked, and it is for the smooth irrigation. So there are 2 rivers, Ken and Betwa, has been linked together. Now, there is a controversy in Kerala whether the river sources has to be linked together. The river which is flowing from Kerala to Tamil Nadu to Andhra Pradesh should be, so Karnataka, whether we should link it or not, we are against that actually. There's no consensus actually. But then this is going to have a large impetus to the agriculture, because those rivers which has been flooded during the summer, they can share the water resource and it can increase the agriculture. So this is again the draft DPR, the detailed project reports are being given for linking 5 major rivers. And food processing is another one thing. Again, you know that agriculture sector is very connected to the food structure, the fruits and vegetables. It has to be stored. And which I need not tell you, almost all the fruits and vegetables which you enjoy at this time, mostly these come from outside India, outside the country, or from the North India, etc. Isn't it? So that is 24 hours you'll be. So this processing is very good. Next, another major thing is the health. Now that is another one major realization. We have the national as a nodal center, in Bangalore, which has been there. We have a mental health centers of excellence has to be set up. And it's telemental. So anybody finds it difficult to cope up with anything, you have a support by telephone. So that is one major movement. And then the integrated support for the women and the children. And the Prime Minister has given different names for that. The Mission Shakti, the Mission Vaishlas, the Anganwadi. And this is very important thing. Anganwadis are getting a new facelift. Okay, now Anganwadis and Portion 2.0, the old and MSME. Now, you know, as students of commerce, this is again a major point for us, where the micro, small, and the medium enterprises. Many often we say MSME, but then what is micro, what is small, and what is medium? That I don't know how many of us have a clarity. Normally, the MSME is divided into 2 major one based on the investment in the plant, machinery, and equipment. So it is divided in that basis, or it is even divided in the earlier budget. Now they have devised as ease of doing business in 2.0 and the ease of living. So make your life more comfortable living in India. You need not live to make a comfortable life. You need not go outside India to Canada, to US, Australia, etc. So you have to see that any for industrialists, for people, for everything, there should be an ease of doing things. So it is under 2 heads: ease of doing business, 2.0, and ease of living. So basically the governance is one major thing. The portals, you have got different portals has to be integrated. The IT, the information technology has to be integrated. The 5G is coming up in a big way. Now you see 5G is coming up in a big way. We are planning for a 5G. So that is going to make a radical change. Okay. The support, the R&D support for the industry and startup and academy, etc. So there's a blending of academia partnership with the industry. And then you see you have got e-passport, which are chip embedded. So you don't have any technical issues. And the urban planning is another one thing. The battery swapping, which we'll be discussing that in a big way. So the battery swapping is another one thing. The environmental care and protection is another one thing. So this is one major area. And the last one in the priority is the financing of investment. The financing of investments, which we'll be discussing that in the later thing. And of the financing of investment, the introduction of the digital currency is said to be one of the pioneering move. Even if the RBI was not for that, the budget have taken a strong, bold initiative to have a digital rupee. Now, physical currencies has to be replaced by digital currency. Now, I don't know whether you have pondered it. So cryptocurrency is something different. Okay. Now, you see, cryptocurrency has not been legalized in India. It has not been banned also. You see, 30% of tax is levied to the cryptocurrency, which is actually where the government want to not to entertain the cryptocurrency. But cryptocurrency is different actually. You have to have a clear idea. Cryptocurrency is a different concept where the digitalization of the rupee. So a digital rupee is going to start with, and that is a very smart move which we have to look into. And then the physical deficit is being brought down. And then the energy storage system, the green bonds, that is another one thing. To mobilize the green infrastructure, you have the green bonds is getting introduced. The blended finance for sunrise industries, there are more focus on the sunrise industries are there. And private public participations of investment is being taken up in a big way. And last year, the LIC was said to be disinvested. That due to some technical things, it has not happened with. For the disinvestment charges is very high. So this year, the disinvestment charges has been lowered to be very realistically. We expect more of disinvestment happening and IPOs coming up this year. So that were the 4 major areas. Hope you could recall that. So the 4 areas: the PM Gati Shakti, inclusive development, productivity enhancement, and financing of investment. So these were the 4 priority areas of budget. Now, very quickly, just let's have a glance at budget again. As students of commerce, you get to know about the revenue receipts and capital receipts, and revenue expenditure and the capital expenditure. Now, there's a comparison of different years are given over there. So just have a look of this. Okay, what is the effective capital expenditure? Year on year, it has gone up. But the revenue expenditure, there is not much of difference there. The capital receipts, the marginal increase is there. So there is no big expectation of income and expenditure difference compared to the last year. So that is one reservation which we need to hold. And then you see you've got different allocations to the major schemes like Jal Jeevan Mission. So water for all. Jal Jeevan is nothing but water for all. The allocation has gone. Just have a look at the slide. The PM Kisan also, the allocation has pretty gone up. The Pradhan Mantri Sadak Yojana, the allocation has gone up. The National Education Mission allocation has gone up. But then even you say that the new education policy have said that 6% of the GDP should be spent for education purpose. But then you see, when you look into the intricacies of the budget, just 3% has been allotted for education. Now there is a wide gap. So that is again a criticism. As students, we have a criticism because new education policy have earmarked this percentage from the GDP, but what they have spent is just 3%. And then you have got the Bharat Rozgar Yojana, the Pradhan Mantri Suraksha Yojana, etc., where the allocations amount have gone up. Now have a look of this, the rupee comes and the rupee goes. As commerce students have a very clear understanding of the 1 rupee which comes as an income, as a revenue for the government. You see the major amount goes for 35 paise. The 35 paise come from borrowings. And then you have the goods and services tax and the corporation tax of 16 and 50 paise and the income tax of 15 paise. So taxes put together is another, obviously taxes is the major revenue, but then you have the income tax of 15 paise per rupee as an income, corporation tax of 15 paise and goods and services of 16 paise. But then the concern is that 35 paise is borrowing. So of the 1 rupee, 35 paise is a borrowing. So that is a major concern. And then the rupee spent. So of the 1 rupee which we get as an income, you see 20 paise is given as interest. Okay, so that is a permanent burden for the country. Is a 20 paise is being, and 17 paise is the share for the state, 15 paise is for the central sectors, and you have got other defense is 8 paise, etc. Okay, so subsidies is 8 paise. The subsidies are taking out slowly. Very sure that by next year you will have the subsidy of the LPG, the petroleum prices, everything will be taken out. Okay, so that is again a very realistic assumption. Now, let me take you into the, as I've told you that I've slightly made the presentation at a different angle. As students of commerce, I thought it will be more useful for you. So I've just taken the major economic indicator, which I'll not take much of time. These indicators are a major directions to the economy. Okay, so you have to see the growth rate. Now, last year the growth rate has gone down actually. So this year it is 9.2. So that is a major thing. The growth was coming down because of the COVID issues and other things, but then we could go up now. The 21-22 estimation, the growth is expected to be 9.2, and compared last year it was very low. The fiscal deficit, 19-20, when the COVID struck, the fiscal deficit was very high. We could bring it down, but not up to the expected level of 6.4. The inflation, again, I've told you that 2021 inflation was very high. Now we have an inflation of 4.88 or is almost 5. Which again we need to bring it down. The forex reserve is very promising for the country like India. As I've told you that the China, the Switzerland, the Japan are only the 3 countries which are ahead of us. So that is a very comfortable stage for, and you know the importance of forex reserve. And the last one is the growth in imports and exports. Now you see that again has gone down. So after the COVID, this export and import have made a mismatch. So which we need to really work on that also. Now, another major focus on the budget on the capital market. I've divided the budget in that way also, where the impact of the budget on the capital market. As students of commerce, I know this would be of more interesting for you. Okay. So the capital market on the day of the budget. Now this year the budget, last year it was a negative closing, where this year it is last year was not negative, it was 5% up actually. Now though the market is positive closed, the percentage is just 1.46 and 1.37 for the Sensex and the Nifty. Okay, and the bank indices also went up actually because there were a lot of favorable news for the banks actually. Okay, so have a look of it. That's what I told. This year it was just 1.46 and 1.37, where last year it was 5%, nearly 5% up. But the year before it was negative. Okay, so these were the closings on the Sensex and Nifty on the day of the budget. And just have a look at the market reaction on the day of the budget. You see, between 13 and 14 hours, market had a great fall from 1775,000. It has gone to 1772,000. There was a great fall. Can I keep it open? What was the reason for that particular drastic fall? Otherwise, we don't find much of things. But then between the 13 and the 14 hours, there was a drastic fall in the budget. Because there was some unexpected news which came up with the automobile sectors. So that was one major issue we expect. So that was one major reason for that actually. And you see the market fluctuations also. I think students, you would have gone through the technical and the fundamental analysis. So this gives you a clear idea of on the day of the budget. And thus we have taken for a larger 1 week before and after budget. So see, during the day of the budget, the fluctuations were really high. Now, very quickly, let's see who were the topper gainers and losers during the budget day. Toppers and gainers. Tata Steel could have a percentage change of 7.5. The Sun Pharma had a 6% up. Indus Bank 5% up. The Cement and the Hindalco, that is aluminum industry, had a 5% up. So you see these sectors, the Tata Steel. So infrastructure, there were a lot of boom for the infrastructure, and that was one thing where the infrastructure stocks moved up because say 25,000 kilometers of was more the roads and infrastructures and other things. So that is one reason these stocks went up. They have the top losers. Top losers, you see most of the petroleum companies, and is one major thing. And petroleum companies, you know that they're going to levy more taxes on the petroleum is another one thing. And the companies are moving to alternate energy. Battery swapping is another one news which was not good, which was there in the capital market. One is the private-public partnership and the venture capital. So the government was very focused to raise the money through the public and the private sector funds. Joshi sir, sorry, sir. Okay. What? Committee to students. Hope I am audible.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yeah. So the major decisions committee, so venture capital and the private equity. So as being students of commerce, you know all these terms. So now I'm not into that actually. So the public-private participation is another one thing. Accelerated corporate exit. Now you see, if a company wants to close down, as of now, it takes minimum 2 years. Minimum 2 years. Now those companies, they feel that it's not worth existing. They can quit by at the earliest of 6 months. Okay, so that is the C phase. That is called as the corporate exit phase. So as students of commerce, you should appreciate that actually. And then the borrowings, the market borrowings. Now you have a physical borrow. Now that is a major concern. Country, we keep borrowing it. So obviously we have to have more spending comes in, more spending has to come. Then only the push of economy will happen. And the post office, which I've told you earlier also. So CPACE is another one thing which I've focused. So the accelerated corporate exit, which is that earlier it took nearly 2 years to exit, but now with this company could exit by 6 months. And the venture capital and the private investment, equity investment. The private equity investment is a smart move by the RBI, SEBI, Finance Ministry, the Department of Promotion and Industry and Affairs, and the Commerce Ministry. Okay, so here that is what there's a great start push for the startup companies. And another one, as students of finance again, or students of commerce, disinvestment is one major source of revenue for the government. This year, the target has been taken as 65,000 crore, which is much more realistic, actually. Much more realistic. Last year they have taken a target of 1.75 lakh crores. 1.75 lakh crores. And they could achieve only 33,000 crores. 33,000 crores. So that was an unrealistic assumption of disinvestment. And one major reason is that they could not disinvest LIC. As expected, they could not do that. But I'm very sure that LIC is going to get disinvested. Okay. So this year we had a very realistic assumption of disinvestment. Now, let's see the major gainers and losers in that, in pertain to the capital market. The transport and infra. And this is why, because of this sectors have gone up. The transport and infrastructure have gone up because the Vande Bharat, the train, massive transit, the roads infrastructure is coming up in a big way. Solar linked incentives are given in a big way, and the EV battery makers. Okay, so swapping of batteries to the electric vehicles is another one major important initiative. And losers, obviously, and there was a shortage of semiconductors. Crunch was there. So automobile sector was one of the major losers. Why? Because there was semiconductor, there was shortage of that. And that was one thing because the China could not supply it. So the countries where we were dependent on supplying were not able to supply it because of the COVID and other things. And crypto players, they were charged 30%. Now, don't confuse yourself. The digital currency and the cryptocurrencies are two different things. Okay. And then the state-run banks, again, because of the digital currency, global move, etc., a couple of banks were not very promising in there. But the Sensex, the BankX closed at a positive note of less than 2%. Now, we're just getting to the next area, which is the sector analysis. I've taken 5 major sectors. Again, I've incorporated this because basically the impact of the budget on the sectors, as students of commerce, we have to understand clearly on that also. So very quickly, let me run through that. This has been said earlier also, the automobile sector, where you got the electric vehicles are coming up in a big way. So swapping policy to encourage the battery run vehicles can be swapped with the electric run vehicles. That is another one thing. So energy as a service has been coming up, and production linked incentives, PLI, for EV vehicles are given in a big way. So that is one positive thing. The textiles, obviously, in India, you know that India, one of the major focus sector is textiles actually. So the custom duty exception has been announced for that actually. The MSMEs credit guarantee schemes have been extended to the textile sectors. Okay, so that is where most of the MSMEs are into the textiles also. So that is one important thing. So we have the impact of that, obviously, that is a boost to the sectors. And now telecom sectors, again, you know, the telecom, the 5G is rolling out. The 5G, we are just enjoying the 2G and 3G actually. 4G, obviously, it has come up with, but then how many of we are not enjoying the 4G actually, but then the 5G also technically is rolling out. So that is a great impetus for the technology, for IoT services, production linked incentives, etc. So the 5G space have been awaited. There is a big auction going to happen with, there's a big fund is going to come to the government exchequer by way of 5G. Next, information technology is another one thing. And you know that information technology is given a major focus in the blockchain technology enabled digital currency is one major incentive for that actually. And then the e-passport, the digital currency, the Kizantron. So digitalization of the financial services are the major impetus of information technology. Now, this slide shows about the ministry-wise allocation. of the given different ministries, the defense ministry is the highest. I've not taken the major ministry. These are the major allocations followed by the food and public distribution, road and transport, home affairs, railways, rural agriculture, chemical and communication. So these are the major thing. And above all, the defense has, obviously every country has to give in a big allocation for the defense. So which I'm just skipping it for you, the defense allocation. Now, very quickly, let's see what is the impact of the budget in Kerala. So we being in the state of Kerala, in the southern tip, we have a lot of concern. Every budget is a disappointment for us because we don't have, the BJP is ruling over there, where we don't have representatives over there. And then you have the opposition sitting over there. So obviously, we have a lot of reservation. We had a big wish list. The expansion of GST compensation, the hike in the central share of the GST, the drop of cess and surcharge, takeover of the NHA, National Highway Authority, the package to rehabilitate the returnees from foreign countries due to corona and other issues, isn't it? For the space research, etc. But then many things, we have got few contributions from that, but then many of our expectations, the wish list which has been given earlier has not been materialized. So for Kerala, if you ask me, it is a disappointment to a greater extent. We had the coffee board, tea board, spices board, coconut board, etc., where the routine allocation has been given. But apart from that, the rest of it was not up to that. The Cochin Shipyard allocation has been given. The National Center for Earth Science Studies in Trivandrum, the allocation has been given. MSME allocation has been given to some extent. And then another one thing is that Kerala is a state where the Mahatma Gandhi Rural Empowerment Scheme, the job guarantee scheme, is being going in a big way. Now, what happened is that the spending this year's the allocation for this MNRGS scheme is very, very low. Okay, where that was been going in a big way in India, and the IIST, the Indian Institute of Space Science and Technology, the amount which was earmarked is not up to mark. Have a look of the very different coffee boards. I've told you that Kerala is rubber board, coffee board, spices board, etc. is there. The allocation has been given. So when compared to the last year, almost we have a plus percentage allocation. I've given a chart over there where you see you have almost, and you see the rubber board is given the maximum. Sorry, the Cochin Shipyard is given the maximum, where the lease is given to the marine product, etc. Okay, but then there is a positive figures. And you see, this is the allocation. We have got a lot of public sector institutions which are run by the central government, which is there in India, in Kerala, where the allocations, the Rajiv Gandhi Center for Biotechnology, the Sri Chitra Institute of Medical Science, the Indian Space and Science, the CDAC, etc., where allocations are very nominal, but then it has been. Now, this I will be just running through. When compared to the last year, the allocation is pretty okay for the rubber board. The spices board again, when 18-19, our allocation was 180, where 22-23 it has gone to 115. And then 19-20, the Cochin Shipyard was 495, where it has just come down to 400. So there were years where we were been getting more of allocations, and then 160. That is one thing which is very promising. So the major disappointment for Kerala is that we asked for a GST extension for 5 more years, which was not granted. The high-speed railway is a debatable thing. Whether we should have it or not is a different issue. It was not technically granted. IIMs, the All India Institute of Medical Science, was a great demand. We have been looking at every budget we have been telling, and it was not sanctioned for Kerala. Okay, so this was the major, the pandemic relief packages for the pandemic was not given as suggested. Now I've just focused one thing on this agriculture sector. A couple of slides are given on the agriculture, because you know that less than 50% of the people in India are into agriculture, but the GDP contribution is less than 20%. Okay, so there is a wide gap. So agriculture sectors, 19% of GDP and 41% of workforce are into the agriculture. So which could be because this is one focus on the 4 priorities of the budget. So things are getting repeated here, which but I thought I'll just put it into 1 or 2 slides to give you a more focus on this actually. So you have the GVA is another one thing. The minimum support price is another one major thing. Now you see, you have got the agriculture. You have to really think that before the budget for a year, we had the farmers' strike in Delhi, and there were 2 bills or 3 bills which was being there for the farmers, and the bill was more focused on the participation between the private and the public players. So there was a lot of, they were planning for the inviting the private participation into agriculture. Now that has been withdrawn by the protest of the people actually. Okay, so in that background, you have to think on this actually. The livestock sector has to be there. And then the chemical-free natural farming, the Kisan prawn, the NABARD support, the private-public participation, the linking of the river projects, etc. Okay, so that is what the agriculture sector is there. So though the agriculture bill was not passed in the parliament, government is taking some, when you read between the lines, you know that the private-public participation, the private involvement into the agriculture sector is one major agenda for the government. So tomorrow, if this is not going to happen today, it is going to happen tomorrow. There is nothing wrong. There is nothing wrong in that actually, but we have to be very careful about the implementation. Now, because you know that the big multinational companies, they ask the farmers to grow the product for them, and what are the difficulties they're facing. And once this monopoly comes in, tomorrow the terms, the farmers may not be in a position to dictate the terms, and the company is going to dictate the terms on the farmers. So that is the big concern. Now the taxation, obviously, when you say budget, the major revenue comes from the taxation. Major revenue comes from the taxation. So very quickly, the tax benefit, when you say that, is more into corporate benefit. The common man, so salary class people expected that there will be some incentives for the salary class, but then nothing was given. The tax slab was not disturbed. And you see the tax revenue. The tax revenue comes in. The major tax revenue comes from the corporation tax and the income tax. The goods and services tax is 27%, followed by the corporation tax and the income tax. So there is a big contribution by way of this by the taxes actually, because taxes are the major source of income for the government. And this is a slab which was there earlier with the deductions and without deductions. So this is one without deduction where you see there's no change in the tax slabs. Now there are certain uses are related to the taxes, direct taxes, where you are given some freedom. So if you had made any mistakes in the filing of the returns, you are given 2 years to correct it. And cooperative societies, there was an alternative minimum tax by the cooperative society, which has been reduced. So there is a reduction of the corporate minimum tax for the corporate society. That is one major incentives. And the tax reliefs are given for the disability persons. That is another major one. National pension contribution. It was increased from 10% to 14%. So that is again a major incentive. And incentive for the startups are being given over there. Now you know that startups are seen in a big way to promote it. You have the incubators coming up in a big way to support the startups and other things. So there are a lot of tax benefits are given to the startup. Conventional tax regimes are given for them, and the virtual digital assets schemes are being improvised. Now, the gift of virtual digital asset is being taxed in the hands of the recipients. Okay, so virtual digital assets are there. The classical example is the cryptocurrency, which is to be taxed. Now, there is another, as students of finance, as students of commerce, the International Finance Service Center, IFSC, it is not International Financial Service Code Allah, that is different. Here we talk about International Finance Service Centers. So you see, basically there are companies which offshore financing is there. The companies go for portfolio management, okay, the leasing purposes, etc. So there were some incentive which was given for this company, like for the leasing of ships and other things, for the portfolio management companies, for offshore banking companies, etc. Okay, so that is where on the direct taxes. Now indirect taxes also, there we had some one nation, one tax. goods and service tax was brought out by 2017. You know that, and almost the status quo was maintained for the GST. That is where much of changes are not there. And the GST, one surprising thing is that the GST collection have gone up. And the last year, the GST collection, now you had a drop in June and all, but then now it is catching up. So that is very one promising thing. And regarding the GST again, special economic zones were fully IT driven. Concessional rates are given for the capital goods and other things. Unblended flight. The last bullet is very important. The unblended fuel to attract additional differential tax excise duty. So that was one negative news which was given for the. Okay. Now I'm just concluding with another two slides. So I'm just making, as students of commerce, you see, we are not affiliated to any political party. Every budget have got its own plus and minus. So as students, every budget analysis is intended to make a pros and cons. You need to highlight these are the advantage, or maybe these are the plus of budget and these are the minus of budget. Okay. So pros and cons are major one thing. So let me list out. I'm just reading between the lines of the budget is a positive side. Next is the master plan for express highways. Is kilometers is been designed for the infrastructure development. And another one is the battery swapping policy. That is the EV mobility hubs is another one thing. And you see, country like India, the digital touch point. There are a lot of digital touch points like the digital currency. Digital currency is there. And then the fintech technology is there. Energy transmission is there. Climate change is there. Okay. So these are the important things which has been seen as the plus advantages in the country. And you see the capex growth. When I say capex growth, I don't know whether you're clear with that. That is nothing but the capital expenditure. Okay. So for boosting the Indian economy, the capital expenditure has to be increased. And we have a 35% year on year for the last year, it was increased. So that is a boost because you see the consumption. India is a country where 65% is based on the consumption. So the consumption has to be pushed for further growth of the country. So where the capital expenditure has to be increased to push the growth. Now this is a negative side. Reading between the lines, one is a vicious cycle of raising incomes and employment. Now you see, finally, COVID days are there. The income people are losing income. There's no much of job opportunities. But then government has not made any clear plans for the income and the employment. Okay, so that is one thing. And the rural employment generation is another one. A classical example is that the rural employment program, like Mahatma Gandhi rural employment program, the allocation amount has gone down actually. Okay, and one is the consumer spending. The consumer spending, I've told you that 60% or 65% is based on the consumer spending in India, where the focus should have been given more for the consumer spending, which has not been done with. And MNREGA, which I've told you that the allocation was not there up to mark. And the rural empowerment, though we focus, there is a shrinkage of provisions for that also. And another last obvious one is the per capita expenditure have declined. Compared to the last year, it has declined actually. Okay, so which means that people are finding it difficult to spend money in the economy. So reading this is between the lines. So with that, I come to the end of the budget analysis.
Okay, thank you, sir, for giving your valuable insights on union budget. Sir, I think our participants have some doubts to ask. Dear all, now anybody can ask any doubts or questions by unmuting the mic.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good day, income second year student.
Yeah.
Sir, I'm interested to know what is the relevance and the requisite of issuing green bonds in this scenario?
Yeah. So basically, you see, the India has to focus on the environmental protection. Okay. Now, the climate change is a major concern for that. So basically, the investment has. Okay. So the posterity or the coming generation should not suffer at our cost of development. Okay. So green bonds are major initiative where this focuses on those areas where the countries are more friendly into the environment aspects. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Yeah. Any questions? Most welcome.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
I am Nimila, MCOM second year student. So my question,
Yeah.
even the COVID-19 and allied problems coupled with the economic crisis are existing in India, why don't there be any changes in existing income tax rates?
Yeah. That's a good question. That's a good question. Now you see, your name is Nimala, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Nimila.
Yeah. Nimla, of the total population, you see the total Indian population, any guess on the total Indian population? And what percentage of the population is salaried class? Okay, and of the total contribution of the, so basically, it is not that government this year, even for me also, there was no surprise that the salary reduction was not given because you see, agriculture, 50% of the people are into agriculture. Okay, and that sector is contributing much less over there. The industry is contributing more than that. So the salary class people is less than 1%, where they contribute to the income tax of the country. The people who are contributing to the income tax of the country is 1%. Okay, so where so the minister would have thought, okay, fine. So the income which we get it, why should we suffer on that? And obviously, this is again a political move where government have 2 more years to complete their regime. For maybe you can expect a little change in the next year or year after that on the vote on account. Okay, but being we are going to a tough days, obviously. Being a salaried person, even I didn't expect it a change in that because where this is a very insignificant set of people are into this. 1% of people are contributing to the tax income. There are a lot of other areas which need to be concentrated. I hope you're convinced.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Good morning, sir. I'm
Yeah,
Elena
good morning.
from. Sir, my question is: this budget especially mention an unusual item, umbrella. Duty on umbrella is being raised to 20%, and assumption to part of the umbrella is being withdrawn. Is it relevant decision for India, and how?
No, especially state like Kerala, it will be a big blow actually. It will be a big blow because you see umbrella, you have the popular branded umbrellas, especially. I think I've just forgot that to mention in it. Though the point was there, I just skipped it. Okay, so that is actually a concern for state like Kerala especially, where the lot of small sectors are into this. Like we have popular brands like the John's, Poppy, etc., where umbrellas have been produced. So this is going to have a big reverse impact to especially state like Kerala. No doubt about it. Very relevant question.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
I'm Bindu Rose Thomas, first year MCOM student.
Yeah,
Sir,
please.
how can budget variance control?
I didn't get your question. Can you just elaborate a little on that?
Sir, how can be budget variances control?
Variances control in the sense
Budget amount and the actual amount spent. Difference.
Okay. Fine. You see, basically, when the budget estimated figures and actual figures differs, actually, you mean that actually? No, but
Yes,
when
sir.
the
Yeah.
budget is being presented, the budget size is 39 lakh crores is there. Okay. But then what happened is that budget has been presented on the expectation of certain things. It is an amount which has been presented for the next year. Okay. Now you see, for the last 2-3 years, there are a lot of uncertainties which came to the economy, isn't it? So what was the expectation of the budget presentation, and these were the key focus areas. And of lately, what happened during the next year, where the focus areas have shifted. So funds has to be reallocated. Certain sectors where the funds were allotted could not be spent out. So there could be a re-estimation of the budget. This is a classical example which I could say is the disinvestment. Disinvestment, you have seen that earlier, the budget for the disinvestment figure for last year was very huge. And the realization was just below 30%. It was just 30%. Okay. Because the priorities were changed. And what was expected out of that, even LIC disinvestment could not happen. So there could be a mismatch. So that is why we have a revised estimate happening. Revised estimate which has been coming up. So there could be possibility of variance is there, which is beyond the control of the machinery. COVID is a classical example again. Okay, you cannot expect. Now we thought that the third wave have come in. We thought, okay, first wave will be over with, and we were about to take off. We got the second wave, and then we were about to take off. The third wave had a hit, isn't it? So that is taking a toll on the total calculations. Am I
Okay,
with
sir.
the
Thank
answer?
you. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Sir,
Yeah.
I'm Meenu from first year MCOM. Sir, how our strategy of budget calculation is different from other countries?
But that is actually that question is slightly where I will not be able to address it very genuinely, because the calculation of the budget, the federal government budget, it is a slightly cumbersome question also. But state like India, we are not into the zero budgeting. Zero budgeting has not been taken up. There are countries where it go with the zero budgeting also. Here, basically, what happened is that the calculations are seen on the income and the expenditure. Every budget is a forecast of the income and the expenditure. And you have seen that most of our income comes from the taxes. You have seen the pie chart, isn't it? So where the taxes is the major source of revenue. So government, the rest of and we go for a deficit budgeting. We go for a deficit budgeting. So there is always a shortage of money where we need to borrow that money. And borrowing of money, you know that we have internal borrowings and external borrowings. We borrow internally, we borrow externally from the World Bank, from the IMF, etc. So the deficit has been offset. And why country like India, we have to have that type of budgeting because ours is a developing country. Now we see that by 50, we will be a developed country. So where the deficit financing, as if it goes in, we keep on borrowing things. The money the income which comes from the country is not enough to meet the expenditure. So there is always a mismatch happening with that. Okay. So where countries like other countries like developed countries, the budget preparation is totally in a different angle. Hello? Meenu, I think Meenu have Meenu. Are you satisfied with the answer?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, okay.
Hello, sir.
Yeah, yes, sir. Yeah, AB.
Sir, I am AB from first year MCOM.
Yeah, AB,
Sir,
go
my
ahead.
question is, what are the risks that we face while implementing digital currency in India?
Digital currency, as student of MCOM, I think I should get an answer from you. AB, are you for the digital currency or not?
Hello, sir.
Yes or no? I'm asking you a question, AB. Are you for the digital currency or not? Are you proposing? Would you propose the digital currency? RBI legalized digital currency. Do you propose? The cryptocurrency is different. Maybe I hope you are clear with that. The concept of cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, etc. are different. We are talking here about the digital currency. So as a student of MCOM, do you propose to have a digital currency? Do you find any threat in that actually? Is it good or bad?
Sir, I'm not much familiar about that, but I think it's good.
It is good actually. Now you see, it is a new concept. It's a new concept. We should not hesitate. Okay, now the digital currency, the technology is fast growing. IoT is growing. So there is not technology assisted. Banking system is getting very efficient with technology. Okay. Now, when you have a digital currency coming up, and this is a first move, India will be very slow in implementing. There's not that one fine morning the entire physical currency will be withdrawn actually. Okay. But then your wallet, your wallet you are carrying. Now you see you have the cards. Earlier you have to carry 5,000 rupees in your wallet. Now you have few for the liquidity purpose. You will have 1,000 rupees in your wallet, and rest of it you will manage by the cards, isn't it? You have your debit card and the credit card. Later, what happened was that when your iPhone and the technology further improved, you made your payments through the Google Pay and iPay, etc. Isn't it? Now, that is one more step ahead is the digital currency. So, what I feel is that we should not worry about that actually, and that is a welcome move. That is a welcome move. But slow and steady. Should be slow and steady.
Thank you, sir.
It is just a progression. It is just a progression of what we have been doing over the years. Okay, Abhi? Am I clear?
Okay, thank you, sir.
I think we have slightly overshoot. Okay, we were delayed. We were delayed also.
Okay.
I can take one or two questions more. No issues. Anybody to ask? If not, Joshi sir.
Okay, sir. Vishnupriya, please.
Okay, sir. It's the time for vote of thanks. I invite Jishnu Sharma of MCOM first year for the vote of thanks.
Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
It is my privilege to propose a vote of thanks in this occasion as a student of the Postgraduate Department of Commerce of St. Aloysius College, Adappa. As we all know, our 2022 Union Budget was introduced by our Honorable Finance Minister, Srimati Nirmala Sitharaman, on February 1 this year. Today's session was very informative, covering all the topics starting from the theme Amrit Kal, including the 4 priorities: our GDP growth, venture capital, the private equity investment, tax contributions, introduction of digital currencies, and the tax on cryptos. And we were also able to see the pros and cons of this year's budget. I would like to thank our Honorable Resource Person, Professor C.B. Joseph Sir, Associate Professor of Berkman Institute of Management Studies, for spending his valuable time with us in taking a session on the 2022 Union Budget. And I personally thank you, sir, because I thought digital currency and cryptos were one and the same. Thank you for clearing the misunderstanding.
Oh, thank you.
I would also like to thank our head of the department, Dr. Joshi Andrew sir, for providing us an opportunity to attend this session. And finally, thanks to all the other faculties and students who are present here today. Once again, thank you, sir, for the informative session. Thank you.
So, thank you, students.
Vishnu.
And we're very happy with getting a couple of quality questions also. So, Jishnu, I think the digital currency and cryptocurrency is a happening area in India. Cryptocurrency has not been legalized. Now we have charged a 30% tax on the cryptocurrency because that is not legalized. Okay, but then there is no problem in taxing because there are people who are making money out of cryptocurrency. So for those people who are making money, which is not by is a prohibitory tax. It is normally called as a prohibitory tax. Okay, so that is different. Don't confuse the cryptocurrency to the digital currency.
Yes, sir. Clear, sir.
Okay. So thank you very much. Thank you, Joshi sir, for giving me a chance.
Okay, thank you once again, sir, for being with us, spending your valuable time with us.
And sorry for the technological issues. Initially, the earphone I just left. I thought I had the earphone with me. Then I realized that I didn't have the earphone. So I had to switch the device. And that was a delay. Okay. Sorry for that.
Doesn't matter.
Okay,
sir. Thank you.
Thank you, students. Thank you very much.
Okay, I think we are good for now. Thank you, everyone. It was a pleasure being with you all today. We have come to the end of our session. I would like to thank everyone who made this meeting possible, especially to our resource person, Professor C.B. Joseph K. Sir, Associate Professor, Berkman Institute of Management Studies, who provided us with immense knowledge through today's session. Thank you all once again. Thank you for participating in today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you.